Especially with having 75. It's some of our tax.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was bounded a little quicker than I thought. Just good.
All right. Okay.
He's over there.
Taking care of a technical issue.
It's. Working the waiting room.
All right, we're up and rolling.
I know they have you.
Huh? You guys ready over there?
Yeah, but no, we just got it.
You guys are ready?
We're ready.
We're gonna go. We're gonna take off here. Okay, we are going to call a meeting to order.
We start the recording. I didn't hear that.
It did.
Yeah.
Yep. This is City Council regular business meeting for Thursday, May 1st, 2025. It is 6:01 PM. Halen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Poole,
Here.
Livingston. Here. Minneke.
Here.
Mayor Phillips.
I'm here. And we do have a quorum, so we'll move on. Item number 2 is approval. No, item number 2 is pledge of allegiance. Please rise and say pledge of allegiance.
Yeah, we have free range.
I pledge allegiance to the flag. All right. Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to move any of the consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, motion by Livingston, seconded by Brown. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item number 4 is welcome of guests and public comment. Thank you for being here tonight and participating with in the meeting with us. We go ahead and open up the dais at this point in time for anybody who wants to talk about a non-agenda item. We'll give you a 3-minute time limit. Realize we can't take action on those tonight since they aren't on the agenda, and that would be a violation of open meetings law. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. Anybody, any takers? Seeing none, we're going to move on. Item number 5, proclamations. This for this meeting, we have Municipal Clerks Week, we have Public Service Week, we have Economic Development Week, and we have National Police Week. Check out our packet online to read those proclamations. I think Ty will also put those in on the city's webpage when they come up. So watch that as well. Item number 6, consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second. Okay, motion by Brown, seconded by Minneke. Kalen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Poole,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Item 7 is old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is a public hearing regarding Public Works and Park Storage Building. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:04 PM. So we're going to build a new building at the Public Works facility to meet some of the storage and operational needs of both our Public Works Department and our Parks and Rec Department. So Lindsay or Adam, I'll turn it over to you.
You take it?
Yep.
Okay, Wayne, sorry you couldn't be here tonight, but this public hearing, after this, you'll have 3 resolutions to approve for the project. It's a 50 by 200 storage building for Parks and Recreation and Public Works. Equal funding parts through road use tax, stormwater, water, and sewer funds, as well as the money from a recent bond sale will fund it. Construction is slated to start June 1st and be done by the fall of 2025. If you have any other questions, let me know.
All right. Kalen, have we received any oral or written comments on this?
No.
Oh, any public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:05 PM. Item 7B is a resolution approving plan specifications, form of contract, and estimate of cost for the Public Works and Park Storage Building project. So we just had a public hearing for this project, and this is the first of 3 resolutions needed to get the project launched. council passed a resolution that approved the preliminary plan, specs, form of contract, and estimate for this new building. This resolution is the final approval for all of those. So Lindsay or Adam, what do you got? If anything.
Nothing to add. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
no-
just grants the final approval of the contract documents.
Okay, any discussion or questions from council? Or any public comment?
Look like a nice sized building.
Yeah. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Second.
Okay, motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Kayla, will you call a roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 7C is resolution awarding contract for the Public Works and Park Storage Building Project. So this is the second of 3 resolutions needed to start the project. This resolution awards the contract to, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Ike and Day Construction LLC for $1,043,388. Lindsay, anything to add?
We received 6 bids for the project. Engineer's estimate was 1,019,000, so it came in just over. So yeah, Ike Day is a little better.
Any questions, discussion from council? Or public comment?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Baker, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Kalen, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7D is resolution approving contract and bond for the Public Works and Park Storage Building Project. So this is the third and final resolution needed to get the project rolling. This resolution approves contract and indicates how the city is going to pay Ike and Day Construction for their work. Lindsay, anything to add?
Nothing to add.
All right, any discussion, questions from council or public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
Second.
Motion by Brown, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Kalen, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7E is a resolution approving supplemental agreement number 1 for additional engineering services for the Public Works and Parks Building Project. So this resolution authorizes a contract with Snyder and Associates to oversee the building project that we just approved. This is normal practice for these types of projects. Lindsay, anything to add?
I'll just add Snyder is the one that designed the project for us, and this is a limited supplemental agreement for verifying compliance of materials and inspections due to Public Works staff already having some trade knowledge. We just thought this one is just a small amount of inspections that is needed through the engineering company.
Questions or discussion from council?
How much do we save by having our own staff participate? Or what would this cost if we didn't have the public works people looking after it?
That's a good question. You know,
This is
Just in-
35,000 for the inspections. I'm unsure. I
Not sure,
don't know.
okay. I just didn't know if it was double or what that cost would be, but that's fine.
Motion?
thank you.
Second,
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Minneke. Any further discussion or any public comment? Hearing none. Kalen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7F is discussion of possible action regarding an extension of wall for the Highway 28 beautification project. So based on a citizen's request, we're looking at extending our wall to include the properties that front Sunset Drive and that are immediately across the street from Lakewood Drive. So I'd like to point out that our current authorization from the Iowa DOT is that we can put the wall 18 inches into the right of way, which is shown by the red line in the picture on the right that Luke has up on your monitors. To get additional authorization on this, we'd have to file a request with the DOT. If you recall, we just had discussion about the DOT turning over this right of way to the city, and council at that time indicated that we had no desire to accept that right of way. If we go back to the DOT to extend our authorization, I'm afraid they may require us to receive this right of way so we can put the wall up in the requested location, which is the blue line in the picture on the right. So Lindsay and Justin, I'll turn it over to you. Justin here?
Is Justin online? I don't think he's online.
I don't think he's online.
You explained it perfectly. I think that the thing I want to point out the most is just what you did, which is even if you guys decide that you want it in this location, we still have to get DOT approval to do so. But if you have questions, happy to answer them.
Questions?
So the red line's back toward the houses. That's 18 inches into the right of way.
Yes.
Okay. And then,
Yeah, we're kind of left with a different situation up there. Because that street is supposedly a continuation from the street on the other side. And so, while the city eventually paved those other streets, that didn't happen on this side. And I visited with one of the homeowners up there. They called me. And I explained to him the precariousness of the right of way, right? And that, you know, if the city assumed right of way, we likely would have a street requirement. And if we did, that could result in more cost for the property owners there, right? Because we need to bring it to code, I would think. And then I also explained to them that if they assume the right of way, they assume the responsibility of maintaining that as a private drive. Right. Right now, I believe it belongs to the state. And I think they give us a little bit of money to move the snow and put rock on it.
Yeah, correct.
But I also think it'd be great if we didn't have a break in the fence, if it was a solid fence all the way through. I think it would look nicer as far as aesthetics go. And I guess I feel for the property owner, it's that situation with the right of way is what complicates the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm in favor of supporting us to see if we can put a fence in front of that and do that in such a way as right of way ownership doesn't become a problem for us. I don't know if that can happen or if it can. But I'd like to give it a try. That's my opinion.
I'm not in favor of doing that. I'm not in favor of pursuing this at all. I'm not in favor with respect to the homeowners. I appreciate that they came forward and that they would like to see this the fence continuous. I appreciate the whole situation with that drive and all of that. I have no interest in the city taking over that area. I have no interest in the city being responsible for ownership of that area. I have no interest in changing our current plan that we have already we're ready to move forward on the implementation of that plan. It's been a long time in the works. I'm not interested in going back to the DOT for yet another thing when when they came to us and we just told them no. I'm not interested in doing all that again. I'm not interested in exploring this issue at all.
I am interested. I think in the long-term perspective, I think our citizens would appreciate that wall being continuous. Two of the homeowners have said they would appreciate it. If I were a homeowner there, I would appreciate it. You know, where I can agree with Jackie is, you know, I wouldn't necessarily seeing this. I mean, I realize you would like this all to be part of one project, ideally. But if it would require us to like redo the whole thing, go back to the DOT for the whole thing again, that doesn't seem wise to me. If there's a way to, you know, somehow do this separately again, and I like what Ed said. I mean, I don't get all of the You know, will the city have to take on these other liabilities? I don't understand whether that's gonna happen. I'm just purely looking at the aesthetics of it and what we're trying to accomplish in that area. And I think what we're trying to accomplish is exactly what these homeowners are requesting. Overall, big picture. If I were there, I would be very glad to have that wall be continuous.
I didn't hear what
It-
Ed said.
I will say, my understanding is
Oh,
one
I'm
of the
sorry.
owners doesn't want it there.
Correct.
But it's in their backyard.
Correct.
No.
Yeah, technically.
Front of their house faces the highway.
Oh, on the far north?
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Brian.
I didn't hear what Ed said when the property owners were requested to treat that as a private drive and take over the expenses. What was their reply to that?
Well, that was something that they would just as soon not do, obviously, right? And I guess where I'm at, Ryan, is I'd like to see if it's possible to put that fence through there without the state giving up that right-of-way section. If they would just keep it and let us put a fence through there.
Do you think that's a reasonable expectation? I tend to agree with Jackie that that's like poking the bear.
Well, I have no idea, and I don't know what we would necessarily have to lose. We'd get a yes or a no out of them, I believe. But I don't know as it would work very smooth for either side to take over that right away. It's unfortunate that's the situation, right? But we are where we are. But I think the fence would look nicer if the state saw in the kindness of their heart to let us shoot the fence through.
So there's one more part of this. I'm sorry, Ed, were you finished? And Brian,
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt. There's another part, and I'm sure engineering would factor this in, and that is, right, there's a driveway there. And so now we're putting in a 6-foot, 8-foot wall, I don't remember, 8-foot wall on either side of a driveway on a highway that at least twice a day is incredibly busy. And what are we gonna put a traffic now control device? How are people going to manage coming in and out of that without some kind of collision? There are so many issues
Are they,
with putting an 8-foot
do
wall.
we have a wall on the other side, Jackie?
Yes,
How-
no,
There won't be a
On the
wall
other
on the
side of
other
the-
side?
Yes.
yes.
So it's the same situation.
It's
It's
Roads.
farther away.
it's the setbacks are different and it's further.
Yeah, and keep in mind, the lines on either map are not engineered
Exactly.
lines. But the road, Lakewood Drive is a wider road. They've done the line of sight studies on that already, engineering has. They would have to do the same thing. So the
Right.
line, it could move,
Right.
it could move way north.
Yeah, they'd have to have a similar setback
Because
probably.
if we went, that problem would be addressed in the same way that it is on the other side.
Fair point.
So,
I guess my opinion is we move ahead with the project as we have it now. And, because it's gonna start pretty quick, I hope.
I think it's supposed to
Yeah,
start soon.
Okay.
Yeah, they're wanting to start demo this month yet of the old structures, and then the materials are 12 weeks out though for the new.
My personal opinion, that if the private or the three houses there, if they want to get together and buy it from the DOT, that'd be fine. And then take another look at it. But I don't want to maintain it and if we get rid of the right of way, that'd be great. So we don't have to deal with it from going in there and moving snow and putting rock on it.
Say that again. You're proposing that the
Why
homeowners.
can't I go with the
take
private
over-
citizen and buy the right away from the DOT?
They probably could.
I don't know why the city has to.
Just to,
This is probably something I should also ask for Wayne. I know he couldn't be on tonight. But to consider down the road for him to have some input, but we did talk with the DOT. We had a general discussion with them about transfer of jurisdiction. And one thing that they did say is generally when they do transfer jurisdiction, they will do some upgrade of a roadway to bring it up to standard before it's transferred. So there's the potential that either some funding or some improvement of that roadway could be made before it got turned over privately. If that were to make a difference with the adjacent owners.
You wouldn't necessarily have to go to the city to get that.
I don't know if they have the ability to transfer to a private owner or if it have to go to the city. I'm not sure. That is a good question.
I would guess that they could transfer it to private owners. I mean, it's no different than further up the North Shore when the private owners actually had the first priority over it versus the city. I think you'd look at that in the same way with this item. I just wanted to point out though, when we're talking about the fence, we're not talking about right now of taking over the right of way.
Yeah.
We're asking for permission from DOT to
Beyond the right of way.
to be on the right of way in someplace different than what they've already given us permission for.
But if we asked real nicely, I saw your smile. That was proposed.
You know, we were really happy and really shocked when they gave us permission to put the fence in it the first time.
Yeah.
And that was immediately before the request for us to take over this right of way. And it's the same people that handle it. And I don't know if they were disappointed that they let us, it wasn't a quid pro quo. So I don't know what the response would be if we asked them again.
Is it possible, as George suggested, like, hey, like, let's not stop what's in motion. Not stop that. But let's consider the possibility of this other thing. Is it possible to do that?
It is possible to do that. Just keep in mind, and Lindsay, please jump in if you have other thoughts. Contractors have a set schedule. If their demo crew comes in and there's a delayed time frame, there could be additional costs and mobilization to bring a demo crew back.
Right.
I don't know that that's the
Yeah.
case here, but just to be aware.
I can imagine there would be additional costs in doing it that way. That makes sense. We'll just ask the homeowners to pay it.
The good news is
Yeah.
none of these three homes have any existing fences to remove or replace. So it's
Right.
completely bare ground. But I can imagine the cost would go up considerably to having a contractor come back
Right.
to do this section.
Most of all, I don't want anything to delay this at all. And the second most of all thing I don't want is the inset fences back by the homes. I think that'll look totally ridiculous.
Yeah, that, I agree.
It's probably worth mentioning and this is coming from engineering, but the ditch along the section is low. So it could reduce the visual or screening impact of the wall. It would have to cross a storm sewer at the north end. And our end post column placement would need to be resolved as well. Our zoning code typically does not allow front yard fences. In the house at 8817 Sunset, it is their front yard. So it could create that effect.
All three houses, it's their front yard.
Yeah, well, very true, yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. This is a very special fence. So it's not a normal fence.
You could do the northern third without any more DOT.
Correct.
Correct. Yeah, you could do that without anything.
That homeowner was at the meeting that Justin and I had with the homeowners as well, and definitely opposed having it in front of his house.
How do we proceed on this to not have a motion or have a motion for a negative outcome? What?
So I would say that a no action or yes, I'll get him in just a second. No action, no motion would mean this project continues as designed.
Well,
Right.
also a motion with
Come
a
up.
negative vote would be the same result, I think. wouldn't it?
If you made a
Like to
motion
come
to
up?
change it and that motion failed, well, then you'd still have the original.
Yeah, we still continue. with
Yeah,
the
we just don't want a motion saying we want to continue with the original plan.
Yeah, because you already got.
Yes, you already got that approved.
Could you get closer, a little closer to the microphone? Let us know who you are and what your address is.
My name's Dale Bielenberg. I was here 2 weeks ago and I requested you guys put this on your agenda. And I sent a very short little letter to each of you about why 8825 and 8833 wanted this wall. Understand, we're not allowed to put a wall out there because of your red line there with the right of way when they built the frontage road. The state built the frontage road, so you have one entrance out onto Highway 28 instead of three driveways coming out onto Highway 28. Perfectly understandable. We didn't request that, surely, type thing, but it was done. It was done. And I've lived there since 2008. Richard Musel and his wife, early 1990, let's say, type thing, and they've not been allowed, believe us. And Jay Coffey, who built both of those houses, is a builder. He would have darn well built a privacy fence there if he was allowed to. He was not. It was a dead issue until you people came up with this beautification project. You tried a few years ago to stain everybody's privacy fence, the same color type thing. Well, time passes, stain falls off, walls fall down, new walls get built. So it's not all the same stain stuff anymore. You tried. And it wasn't a permanent fix. This sounds like a great idea. But your idea, I'm sure, is to have a continuous wall for all the residential properties to have that corridor, that avenue into Norwalk that makes people want to say, hey, this is a place I might like to live or invest in. I think it is. I was at that meeting last Wednesday when Ms. Offenberger there and stuff was, and whoever put that street thing out there, Highway 28, where every property line was over there on the same, it was all spread out. And whoever did this, I owe them a big debt of gratitude because 8825 and 8833, they put big orange block right there. And everybody that was here, people don't know anything about those two properties, but they're the ones that are actually getting the wall. They are getting the wall. Okay? And they're like, what's the deal with these two orange blocks here? And that was, well, they can't get the wall, the right of way, they built a frontage road, da, 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 da. Right. And then somebody, I think Mr. Baker said, well, put that wall back by where the right of way is on those two properties. That will look ridiculous. Not my words. That's where I've heard it many times, though. Besides, the elevation of that wall, because of the way ground falls away and stuff, would be way below the level of the street. I mean, why put it there, right? But what I'm saying is, let me really, you guys don't live there. I do. Musos do. Okay? People come out of Lakewood and turning north. I put that in that little letter. Their headlights come right into our house. You have to have blackout shades. Can't have your shades open, at night. You still see the cars coming by. At my expense, I put blue spruces, had Howell Tree Farm come in and put 5 blue spruces all along to try to block some of that light coming in. I've got 2 bedrooms and a living room facing that road, coming out of Lakewood Drive. My understanding is what you're trying to discuss tonight, decide, is if you want to add to the expense of putting a wall out there. The only thing I would say to that, as you just said, there's no walls to be demolished. You're not talking about delaying, having contractors come back to demolish walls if you want to put out. There is no wall there. All 3 of those properties. My understanding is the construction of this, because of material delays or something, is not going to happen until maybe the end of July. And you hope to be done by September. I think that's what we were told, that information. But I understand the demolition is going to start soon. Maybe next week or something. Right? But anyway, so none of that demolition has anything to do with our property. They can go ahead and do that all they want. Type thing. Now, I'd just like to relate to you, and you may think I'm,
Mr. Wheelenberg, can you finish up?
well, not really, I need to say this. I've lived there since 2008. And when I meet people out at used to be Countryside and then Warrior Run, and now when I golf, you know, they're like, where do you live in Norwalk? Well, I live across from Lakewood Drive on that frontage road. They said, you mean on that dirt road? That's not a dirt road, it's a frontage road. Type thing. That's what they see. Wayne Swartz told me he didn't really think this place needed a wall in front of it because our three homes weren't eyesores. All people see when they drive up past on the highway is that dirt road. And that's what they call it. They put a wall up there, they will not see that. They will not see our garbage cans out there. Nothing changes. It's still state, belongs to the state of Iowa. They've already agreed to let you put a wall at least 18 inches on the right of way. They're right. I don't see why you have any concerns of them letting you put a wall out there. Somebody mentioned the elevation changes of the ditch. Ed Cool came and looked at it. I looked at it. Well,
It's okay. We heard you.
We heard you.
We heard you. We know you want this, and we know that you want it for the city as well. What he said is, I have to be honest, when I drive past that, I think, what is that dirt road doing there? That's exactly what I thought. It's funny that he mentioned that, but when I've gone by it, that's literally what I thought, like, this makes no sense. I'm just being frank there, like, I'm like, this is super weird. And I guess it's not a dirt road, but,
It's gravel.
okay.
Kind of odd the way the whole thing unfolded,
Yes.
but
I drove by it when Jay Coffee used to live there and it didn't faze me a bit. I said, whatever, you get to your house, it's a way to get to your house.
Right.
No judgment.
Well, I don't have
Yeah.
judgment.
I know you don't.
That's not
I
the
know.
way.
I just never,
The houses are nice.
I didn't know that was right away either from the DOT at the time.
it's just a state gravel road.
So Lindsay,
If I lived there, I'd be trying to buy the right of way from DOT.
I agree.
I'd take care of it.
How much does the right of way cost out of
But
curiosity?
it'd be great if the DOT decided to give me some money to put in a blacktop or something.
It would be an HOA between the three owners that would take it over as a private street, probably, correct?
Yeah,
Correct.
otherwise they'd have to each own a segment.
Yeah. Anyway, how do we progress?
So if council wants to explore this further, will the project be delayed?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, you can't even move forward we can't move forward with destruction of the current stuff.
I think where the delay would come in, Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, is that the supplies, the wall have to be ordered and manufactured.
Right.
And there's a waiting period for that order, once it's ordered, be finished and delivered. And we can't order it until we know what the order is.
Hypothetically, Jim, if you wanted a wall and this was your property, hypothetically, and you were desperate for it, and you know all the rules and everything, is there any way that you could figure out how to make it work? Without
Delay?
significant- Like you were motivated, driven.
You know,
like,
I think the
"Ooh,
only thing you could do is see if somehow, if the city decided to do it, that last order could be ordered at a different time by the contractor.
That might be the best resolution to the whole thing, is to approach this as a separate project.
I do think that would probably affect a different section of the wall. I don't think they will install it up to these properties, skip over them and install to come back and install again, and that they'll want to continuously install. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
And you would still need to go to the state, which I think, like I said, you're just poking the bear.
And the other thing is okay, so we order what we have in the project right now. And that gets manufactured. If we go back again, there's tooling costs and all of that we're gonna incur additional costs just associated with getting more panels.
Okay, so let's say, no matter what, you know you're gonna incur more costs. Is it possible to work with the homeowners to say, do you want to pay for these additional costs? I mean, I don't know if we do stuff like that. As you know, I don't know a lot, so.
The estimate from the engineer right now for, based on unit pricing of the wall and engineering costs, it would add about $43,700.
That's assuming we order it right now.
Correct.
Right. So if we wanna keep moving and we wanna give the homeowners an opportunity to have this wall and we wanna assess them the cost, they would have to agree to pay $43,700.
Plus the cost of the right of way to acquire the right of way.
Right.
There probably wouldn't be a cost of acquiring the right of way. We just asked them whether we could build it in the right of way or not. We could
Yeah.
get shut down immediately. DOT might say forget it.
Right.
It's just, I
Like the
wouldn't,
whole thing.
well, I wouldn't.
They've
mind-
already agreed to something, right? They
They've
would
already
take
agreed
that.
to something. I think it'd take a artful conversation with them saying, hey, would you consider for this stretch?
Yeah.
Could the DOT retract the 18-inch authorization?
Could they? I can't answer that. I would hope that they wouldn't be spite. You wouldn't do that,
I know.
but could they?
I don't want to risk it.
I'm just saying, I'm just throwing the things out that
Yeah,
I think about.
yeah, I can't answer that. I think.
Mike-
See, those guys have a lot of discretion.
Yeah.
Because, the 2 months prior to us getting their permission, it was almost a certain thing that we weren't gonna get that permission.
But it kind of looks like we're in a 3-2 situation.
Yeah, I think it sounds to me like that too.
Three to two.
But we don't know how to make a motion to
Three
move
against.
forward.
I'll give you my
Well, we could-
final and best opinion. What I think we've already heard that the real problem is the ugly road, right? Everybody mentions the ugly road, how everybody just referred to it as the ugly road or the dirt road.
No,
Dirt road, and in front of the house. And there's rock on it, I get that. But the point being, I think we need to go ahead with the project as is. And if you can, I think your best case scenario, you can buy or hopefully they can give it to you, that right away from the DOT for the 3 houses. Hopefully the DOT would throw in some money to put asphalt on the transfer.
Mhm.
And then you can see the trees here. I planted some trees in front of the road there a little bit, not interfering with the site of Highway 28, but you can see the trees up to the north. And that would be my blocking of, or shrubs or whatever to block the car lights going into the houses. And you're not gonna have a wall, period. But you might get the right of way. Of course, the problem would be you'd have to maintain the road.
Mr. Mayor,
So let me ask
Mr.
this.
Mayor, could I just finish up what else? Less than a minute.
I'll give you a minute.
So
Come on.
I'm
come on.
75 years old. I spent 20 years in the Navy. I've lived in several cities. I've seen projects like this before, especially in the Navy. And one of the things I've noticed, rarely is there enough time and money to do things right the first time. But I'll be damned if there isn't time and money enough to do it again, because it wasn't right. What I'm asking you to do, this is your project to beautify the entrance in the city, and you want to have this sore thumb of a wall missing for no good reason other than you don't want to go ask the DOT, which they already have let you have 18 inches if you need it, if the city deems it necessary. That's all you're doing. Now, somebody mentions $43,000 more if you want to build those sections across there. I believe you're already spending a boatload of money. My money and every other citizen's money. That money is, what do they call it in Congress? Pencil dust, when you talk about the entire project. And you're gonna have this, people notice this stuff. Everybody that drives up and what the hell's wrong with that property? Why doesn't it have the wall? You want this. This is these big, hairy, audacious projects. and you're dropping it on your toes before you even start by leaving these projects out. Is that a minute?
Yep. Thank you. Okay, so let me ask council this. Would anybody like to make a motion to expand the project with the knowledge that it is probably going to delay it?
Well. Yeah, it looks like the vote would be 3-2. On
Make the motion now.
a motion.
Yeah.
How about if I make a motion and dispose and, process it through?
Yeah.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
If we could call for a vote, Mayor.
Sure. So I have a motion to expand the project by Cool, seconded by Brown. Kalen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Emphatic no.
Brown,
Emphatic, yes.
Yes.
Livingston,
No,
Minneke.
Oh,
All right, so motion fails.
Well, but we heard what he had to say and we considered it.
Yeah.
And we understand where he's coming from.
oh, yeah.
Our hope would be in the future, maybe the situation will change or it can be changed.
I like George's idea. I think one of the things you could do is try to acquire that right away. And then come back to the city and say, hey, we have the right of way now. Let's put it,
Yeah, put a fence on it.
put a fence on it.
It makes sense.
and I'll tell you, from my perspective, it's not about the money. It's not about an incomplete wall. For me, those are houses that face the road.
Yeah.
I never considered putting the wall there. I appreciate that it's got a slightly unusual appearance because of that frontage road. But I don't believe that you put a wall in front of a house that faces the road. For me, it was never gonna be a wall there. Again, that's my position, because those houses face the road.
I assumed there would always be a wall there.
I appreciate that, but that
No, I'm just,
was my position all
I'm
along.
just saying, I think that I can totally understand you, Jackie. And I would hope people could understand what I said. That's it.
Yeah.
I appreciate what she said.
Yeah, I kind of expected the wall to go all the way up. But anyway,
All right.
thank you, Mayor.
Yep, moving on. Item 7G is a resolution approving the site plan of Norwalk High School baseball and softball. These are for improvements at the baseball softball complex just south of the middle school. My only comment on this is since they're reorienting the outfield from being in the west to being in the east, outfielders on the softball diamond are gonna complain about the sun being in their eyes. So, Luke, I think this is the farthest we've gotten into an agenda before we've turned it over to you. So here you go.
I've got a lot to say about this one too, so get ready. No, we're really just moving that one softball field over, doing some demo work on those fields there. Initially, going to turf. They are replacing the press boxes and the concession stand. Everything meets our code.
I just have
We-
one question. Sorry, go ahead.
Can you go
I
down?
just,
Go-
I was just wondering if they were still gravel or if that's been made into concrete.
The parking or
Yeah, the driveways and parking.
You need to come back and visit more often.
yeah, it's all
concrete.
It's all concrete now. This
Good.
This plan doesn't touch the parking or the drive, so it's really just focused on the fields and some pathways.
Just not much into baseball, Jackie.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
Or softball.
You
concerned
spend a lot of time on the road too, Brian. So.
I'm concerned about the right fielder as well. But then I thought like, this is how all major league ballparks face. Actually, they don't.
They don't.
Tilt
So-
again.
Triggers us to go to city council.
I'm teasing.
It's just a site plan.
Just a
Like,
site-
yeah,
Yeah,
anything,
for the property.
anything that's non-residential comes to you guys.
Okay.
So,
I know, I just,
They
you
need to-
started by saying I or we, and I was like, really, we do this? I thought this was all the schools doing.
I started saying, I did the same thing.
Uh-huh.
All right. Other discussion, questions for council or public comment?
Looks pretty good to me. So they're squeezing another field on there, right?
we actually reduce it.
Demolish.
They're removing one field. kind of sliding spinning the softball diamond,
Huh.
sliding it over.
Yeah.
And then putting concession
It's
stand.
actually on the screen is the demo plan. If you drop down a few more, yeah, that's the new,
Oh, okay.
the
that's
new
a
layout.
plan.
Yep. So
Wow. Okay.
That'd be the left fielder, by the way. That's would have.
Yeah,
some
left
errors.
fielder. You're right. The left fielder's gonna have the,
Yeah.
right fielder would be fine.
Will there be a big green monster?
no,
I doubt it.
Okay,
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the resolution as presented?
motion.
I'll do, motion by Livingston. Brian, I'll take yours as a second.
That's fine.
Any further discussion? Caitlin, would you call roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7H. It's a first reading of an ordinance providing for the elimination of dog park passes and providing for penalties for violating dog park rules. So House File 718 has caused us to look at what amenities our residents have asked for, but that we can no longer provide. One of those was animal control and the licensings of dogs. We have since removed those because of House File 718. As we continue down this House File 718 journey, we're finding that we can no longer can effectively keep track of the dog park passes, and the documentation needed for those passes. This ordinance change removes the need for dog park passes and adds some penalties to charge if someone violates the dog park rules. There are going to be signs posted at the dog park indicating people are using the park at their own risk. Adam, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, you basically explained everything there, Mayor. It's one of those things that people that use the dog park kind of self-police themselves already, keeping an eye on everything that's going on out there. I think this is just a great thing moving forward to, once we drop to animal control and everything like that, we just kind of let everyone go in and use that dog park, as they see fit while still kind of self-policing themselves. Obviously, like you said, all the signage and rules will be posted right there by the entrance of the dog park. Everyone, won't have an excuse as to, oh, I didn't know this or I didn't know this. Everything will kind of be black and white, posted right there on the dog park, and let them have at it.
Okay. Questions or discussion from council?
Yeah, I guess we can give it a try, and if it doesn't work out, we can always go back and make a change.
Or close the dog?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Anything else?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Minneke. Any further discussion or public comment? Caitlin, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7I, it's a second reading of an ordinance amending utility garbage and recycling rate increases. As expenses increase due to inflation or joining of Central Iowa Waterworks, cost of improvements in the system, and the new water tower, we need to set new utility rates. And this is also time we will consider adjusting garbage and recycling rates. Luke or Lindsay, anything to add? Nope. All right. Any discussion, questions from council or public comment?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Brown. Any further discussion? Caitlin, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston.
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7J, here it is. It's the second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 75 and 177 of the Norwalk Code related to off-road utility vehicles. So we've talked a lot about UTVs and their use on Norwalk streets. There was a report from a study group that looked into UTV usage, and that's the reason why we have finally arrived at getting a proposed ordinance to allow the usage of UTVs on the streets of Norwalk. Chief, anything to add?
No, sir.
Any discussion, questions from council or public comment?
I guess the only thing I'd point out is we did make changes. I put it in bold on the definition of operate. Councilmember Livingston requested last time.
Appreciate that.
So we changed it over to immediate actual physical control over a vehicle, including ATV, snowmobile, or UTV that is in motion and or has its engine running. And
Thank
that's in
you. I
line with what
appreciate
court cases have done for OWIs.
Perfect. Can I get a motion to approve second reading? Go. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
13 Clearwater Drive. I just had a quick update on the House File 1005. That is the one that's requiring, or they're trying to get to increase the education certificate to go beyond age 17. So anybody who is an operator needs to have one of these certificates. So I was talking with Scott Minzenmeyer, the OHV advisor who worked initially with the DOT and the DNR to get the law created. And he had said that they are pushing this, they are behind it. And he said, even if it doesn't pass this time, it will still be a live bill. And they said it will probably pass the next time. And the OHV advisory committee is continuing to work with the DNR on the developing the educational questions and things like that to get the certificate. So they're moving forward behind the scenes, whether it gets passed this time or not. They're confident that it will get passed eventually.
Okay,
So that was just my only update.
perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by everybody else. Any further discussion? Kalen, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Well, Rick didn't change into an LA Dodgers cap, and so I am forced to still say yes.
Okay.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Okay, one more. One more reading. Item 8, future agenda items. So the purpose of this is for council to give direction to staff by way of motion to have items placed on future agendas. This is not for discussion of the merits of the subject matter. So do we have any future agenda items tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Item 9, council queries and staff updates. Like to remind everybody that this portion of the meeting is much less formal. You may hear some back and forth banter and general goofing around. We believe this can build camaraderie and cohesiveness between staff and council. So Wayne's not here. On the in your packet, there was some information on the winter operations costs.
He just provides that every year after
Yeah.
the winter's over to let council know what was spent on snow removal.
Okay. All right, good. Luke.
I have a few items. First one is, thank you all for turning on your video. We have some folks that watch through YouTube and I get comments from them that they like to be able to see the people that are speaking. So thank you for doing that with Zoom, even though you're sitting here, participate that way. Second thing, property tax legislation at the state. I'm glad to hear they're doing some good things there. It's a little more frustrating on some, from some different angles. Few things I just want to talk about. There are now some additional amendments that are showing up on this property tax bill. And I will tell you that it is a ridiculous amount of time that Gene and I have put into try and tracking each time they come out with change, how it's going to impact our community. And it's frustrating. They started out with phasing out the rollback over 5 years for residential property. Great idea. Get rid of the rollback, makes things much easier for people to understand. Then they changed it to a 1-year change where the rollback would go away all in 1 year. Now they're back to ramping it up to 10 years to change the rollback. I'm not aware if there's any chance of this bill passing. They first started with an exemption for residential properties because the rollback was going away. They threw a $25,000 exemption. That went to $50,000. Now, in this recent proposal, they're talking about ramping that up to 25% of the value of the property at a maximum of $100,000. Each time that number goes up, that is a significant impact on the amount of revenues that the city would receive. It's almost embarrassing how much time we've put in to try and monitor these changes. And it's scary to really see the kind of unintended consequences that we're going to see once this ultimately gets adopted.
Are you really sure they're unintended?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I will say that the biggest losers are going to be high density housing. So any type of apartment complex. Was it more than 7 or 8 years ago, the state passed a bill that went from making them commercial at 100% valuation to having them taxed at residential rates. So it cut their property taxes in half. Now they're ramping them right back up to 100%. So I'm assuming that's caught somebody's attention. Small business owners, really small value properties, also moderate losers on this bill because previously they passed legislation that the first 150,000 of value for commercial was going to be taxed at residential rates. That's like giving a 50% discount on the first 150,000. So if you have a commercial business, it's 150 to 300,000, you're going to see your property taxes go up. The biggest winners with this bill would be large commercial and industrial users. They would see 30 to 40% reduction in their property tax bill, which would be great because that would help encourage more commercial and industrial development. But it significantly changes the motivation of a city to go after commercial and industrial development. So
and that 30 or 40%, who makes up for that?
that's where the transition, excellent question, Mayor. Thank you. That transitions for a large part to residential property taxpayers because the rollback goes away. So we've been trying to explain to legislators when they're willing to listen that this is great for those commercial industrial businesses, but ultimately you're saddling the responsibility of local government costs more on residential. So it's a shift. So with all that said, I actually received something from the League of Cities, and they said that if any of the cities are modeling this with actual property taxpayer data, which would be a pretty significant undertaking, the amount of database work that you would have to do to analyze that for each one of your residents would be huge. And to me, it's scary to see the changes, the amount of time it takes to put that stuff together, to then see the legislator make these swift adjustments back and forth. It really makes it hard to dedicate the time it takes to try and estimate. So we've tried to keep up with it. I can tell you the last version of the bill would actually benefit the city of Norwalk for revenue purposes, but ultimately it'd be a cost to residential taxpayers. So I'm going to see if I can end on a positive note.
When is your session up? That's the positive note.
Per
right?
diem stop May 2nd.
May 2nd?
Yeah.
As you guys, as you've talked to the state, have they been clear about the rationale for why they're taking so much time to look at this? Like, here's the reason why we have to figure something out.
I don't know the answer to that. We've tried to ask some of those questions, but as far as getting a clear answer of what the goal is or what they're after.
And why?
Well, the reason why is because when they go out knocking on doors, they ask people, are your property taxes too high? And they've all said yes.
That is shocking.
And so they believe that they have been passed with lowering property taxes.
As I've said a few times before, when my boss comes and asks if I want a raise, I typically tell him no.
How's that work for you?
Yeah. I think I've said yes every time. I've
Uh-huh.
proposed.
Yeah.
So I think
Maybe
that
a little off topic, but where's the state get their money? They reduced the tax rates down, which is,
Income
I'll
tax.
say that's great.
State gets from income tax, right?
income
Federal.
tax, and they do receive some property tax as well.
But they just reduced the income tax,
That's
right?
what I mean,
They
they're-
paid a 30,
For the
a
ret-
flat,
You must have a lot of income.
Yeah,
Flat rate.
retired or over 65, I think was a significant reduction. And then their plans are to reduce more of the income tax as well. On top of that, one of the things in this bill was there was going to be a school fund created so that they could offset the cost of local property taxes for the school. And then they would use this fund at the state to pay for it, which is scary because they're lowering the other taxes. Where are you going to get that money to backfill the school?
Sales tax is a big one too for state.
Yeah.
They'll obviously transition it to another fee or another tag. Because it's gonna cost what it's gonna cost. Question is how you're gonna collect the money, right?
I don't think they're gonna stop until the residents of the cities and the counties of the state start calling them and saying, stop. They're not gonna stop until people say stop.
You know, one of the legislators, I really enjoyed her comment. She said, that part of what she wanted to say to her constituents is, be careful about complaining to me about something. I might just solve your problem. And what we see, the biggest disconnect are folks that are unhappy about paying property taxes in our community. You know, people get frustrated, people don't want to pay more. Year over year, it is less than inflation. The amount of increase in property taxes that people pay in Norwalk, and I would say it's very consistent across the state. We all pay inflationary expenses for everything we do. The services that we pay for, the walls that we build, all of that is subject to some inflationary increases, and that's reflected in property tax bills going up.
Can I make another comment?
Please.
So another thing that people look at residents is they look at their mortgage bills that come in. And because insurance in Iowa has gone out of the roof, escrows have gone up. A lot of people think that that's the tax side, not the insurance side. So they think their taxes are going way, way, way up, when in fact their insurance rates are going way, way, way up.
I know that Chief Porter, her staff have been doing some research. Apparently, there's a few insurance companies that are changing the way they determine who they're even going to cover. And it's related to fire coverage. And they're finding that some that are a little further away from a fire department or coverage area, they're starting to see some of those folks just get dropped. So that's a good point. But it's easier to be upset with local government when that escrow goes up and say that's the cost that's frustrating.
Yeah.
So if I could wave a magic wand, it would be that folks would come forward, instead of ever complaining about property taxes, they would come forward en masse and say, city, stop doing that thing.
Yes.
Stop having leather chairs in council chambers. If it was,
It's actually faux leather, just.
yes, it is
like,
fake
just to
leather.
be
They're low
clear,
cost.
it's not real leather.
But something like a very pinpointed idea that collectively people would agree on, hey, don't do this. And if it's a significant cost, which this isn't. But if we could point out those individual things collectively, if everybody across the community said, yep, that's one thing the city does that we can deal without. It's an easy way to reduce taxes.
Yeah.
The difficulty is 50% of the people like that item, 50% don't. Okay.
So what's the good thing that you're gonna?
Okay, the good thing is, Jason, one of our council members, Jason Brown, sent me an email asking about Serenity Woods. And it's what I'm showing up on the screen there, highlighted in yellow. This is the conservation easement that the city of Norwalk purchased several years ago. It's 175-ish acres.
Can you do the, sorry, I don't want to be bothered, but can we do that yellow border a little?
You know, I tried to zoom into that.
Like, can we do it with a pen or something?
Well, I was, but for some reason, my Zoom, if you notice that pink line over on the side, I was gonna try to draw on it, but it didn't work out so well.
No problem.
It is highlighted in yellow.
Yep.
And so there were several questions that came through, and I thought they were good questions. Might be a good idea to refresh everybody on this. The first one is, overall, the folks that were asking him, they wondered what the city's plan is for the park. And my response is, the current plans are to place our new sanitary sewer pipe through the site and then periodically mow walking paths. Adam, if you hear me say something incorrect, please jump in.
Gotcha.
The land is a conservation easement, and this is through the federal government, USDA, NRCS. So there are stringent limits on what we can do. The next question, they specifically mentioned things like parking, lighting, amenities, and hours of operation. And what I mentioned is there can't be parking, there can't be lighting, there can't be amenities. The only thing that we can do is essentially mow paths and allow people to walk in a natural area. As far as the hours of operation, do you guys close parks at dusk?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, so the hours of operation will be at dusk, then people would not be allowed to be out there. Then they asked about time frame on when we were going to be making improvements. There aren't any improvements planned. They said that there are gatherings in the park, in the areas where it's currently mowed, and they think that it's mostly young kids drinking. I mentioned it is open to the public, but I'm not aware of time closure. Adam answered that, it's dusk. As most of our parks, I actually put in here, I believe most of our parks are at dusk. So if there's an issue,
I think I have heard that a lot of that goes on at the county park,
Yeah, it's on the
not
south
in the
side.
city.
Yes.
Correct, just to the
Yes.
west.
west.
They were
Yeah.
referring to that too. Is
That's the
it
county.
right?
To the west.
Yep. Where there's that white park, is that?
Yep.
Yes, like.
That's the county.
Yes.
Yep.
And so they were aware that they were aware that this was county. But they just were curious about if Norwalk would ever be
Oh,
doing the other grassy part.
yes.
Okay.
And no, nothing is planned for that area.
Luke, just real quick, did get a reminder here that Serenity Woods isn't quite open to the public yet with all of the work and everything that's going on. So there shouldn't be
Anyone
anyone out there quite yet. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you for the clarification.
So whatever
So-
happens, Luke, whatever happens with this park or any of the other park property should be covered in a park plan, right?
Correct.
That would address all the properties that are owned, whatever those may be.
Right.
So I would expect that to be rolled up in a park plan that would be presented to the council at some point.
That is a good point, Ed. And they would be. There, it goes on, there's questions, is there gonna be a casino there? Is the city gonna put in a lake? No.
And I need to be clear, like, they were not actually thinking these things would happen. It was more like, in the absence of information, people start to, and how these things get started, it's like, that's a super curious thing for me.
Yes, so, and Jason indicated they were good-willed. Their questions were in a positive nature. So I just thought I'd share with everybody that for the most part, that is just a conservation area. When it is open to the public, it would be very limited for just people walking around.
Yeah,
That's the only use of it.
But as further development, you might want to also point out that the city did recently purchase more ground to the west of there that abuts this, that's not subject to conservation easement.
Is it on the north side of the river?
That
Yeah,
is
it's still on the
this-
north side of the river. And, you know, there's a easement for access onto that. That's not, we don't utilize that and that's not open to the public either, but at some point in time, there's a lot greater flexibility that the city has on that ground that it recently purchased.
That is a good point. And we would have to get access there from up near, oh, sorry, I just clicked that forward. Madison?
Yes.
That's where access would have to come from, and that is near the Dunn Industrial Park. So currently there is no access. We have access down there, but it's not public access.
Correct.
But as that area develops, it would be nice if we had something in mind so we could play it into it.
And we have talked about, I do know that Robin and her staff, they've talked about some different options of where the access would come from. We even have a draft agenda statement that talks through a couple of different options.
Well, good, that's pretty positive.
Yep. But it's quite a ways off in the future on when those will happen. That's all I have.
Okay, Jackie,
No, nothing.
Nothing.
Lindsay.
You noticed that Kaylin and I are both sitting up here, so I just wanted to let you know that, for at least the near future, she will be here as well as me. She'll be taking the roll call and doing the notes. I'll continue to be here, but it'll allow me kind of flexibility to work on projects, do follow-up items to council, help the council if you guys need it with anything. See how it goes.
Glad to have her.
Me too.
All right, Adam.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Dean?
I just wanted to mention the library has a new service. We have a drop-off container for all kinds of items that are battery operated. It will be picked up by Metro Waste on a regular basis, so it will provide a way for those items to be more safely discarded instead of going in our regular trash. So it can be anything that has a battery, your laptops, cell phones, tablets, watches, power tools, the cords and cables that go with them, as well as the household batteries. So we'll be
fantastic.
pushing that out to the public to utilize it.
Nice.
I love that. Thank you.
I'll be down sometime.
Come on over. Bring all your stuff.
Yeah. Good. Holly?
Mayor, are you going to give an update on DC trip?
No.
Want me to? Okay. I just didn't want to do it if you had a plan. Okay. So we are heading to DC next week with the Greater Des Moines Partnership and our counterparts from around Iowa, other cities and counties. We have our agenda priorities all ready for the meetings with the legislators and some really great information that we'll be leaving with them. Our priorities right now are the Southwest Development Corridor and regulatory support for infrastructure development and transportation. And then the connection to I-35 and the future interchange. And then, of course, the Highway 5 interstate designation. And Luke, you didn't mention the meeting this morning with the engineering group that's been helping us with that. And they put together some great maps and some really specific information about those two projects. So that'll help. We have some good information to leave with them. And so far, we have meetings set with Congressman Nunn, Senator Ernst, and the Kosovo embassy officials are pending, and then we're working on one with Rep. Miller Meeks. And then we're also planning our agenda priorities for the Kosovo delegation trip in June. It's very heavy on business development, trade, and the police programming. We met with the owner of Pin High last week, and it's no longer called Pin High Golf Simulator and Sports Bar. It's Pin High, I get this right, Pin High Sports and Bar, because it's multiple sports now, not just golf. So they'll have several different types of simulators for different sports and games and arcades. Pretty cool, really big facility. So that'll be fun. They're planning to open mid-June. And then
And Holly, I heard they're doing quite a bit with mullets.
they are, I mean, great partnership with them. They even said that any restaurant, any food truck that they're allowed to have a partnership with on food to offer in their facility, they will. So they're a great group. And then we have, we're working with a local development group on a large indoor, outdoor, kind of adult sports recreation facility. So we'll be coming back to you guys for some feedback on their concepts and possible locations. And we'll have some updates for you on Project West in a bit.
All right.
Today, well, traditionally, an officer that goes to the police academy qualifies on their pistol, but is not qualified or trained on their rifle. So as a department, we've always had to do that ourselves. And there are time periods for a year or so where we have new people that aren't rifle certified until we get enough together to do a certification class. We did that yesterday and today, everybody passed. And then the good news is the academy has now put rifle instruction into the basic academy, so we don't have to do that anymore.
Good.
That's all I got.
All right, thanks. Chief, pancakes were good.
Thank you. Yeah, the pancake breakfast was on the 19th. We served 1,100 guests and raised almost $10,000. So thank you for everybody that came to support that event. In sad news, we did lose retired firefighter Rick Elkin on the 26th. He served from 1999 to 2010. So he served with us for 11 years. So we're sad and we'll miss him. And then on last Tuesday, Lieutenant Cross and I attended the Warren County Philanthropic Partnership grant reception. The fire department received a grant for $5,000 to replace a piece of EMS equipment that was aging. So thank you to staff that worked on that. We were honored to be a recipient this year.
Cool.
So
Thank you. Good.
Was there a controlled burn? I don't know if it was last week over on.
Legacy, is that where we're on the Legacy area?
R63.
Southwest 9.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, Southwest 9.
Yeah, yes, Northern Warren, that's Northern Warren's territory and they had an acquired structure.
Okay,
So they were doing training in a acquired structure burn there.
gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nothing tonight?
Luke?
We got 22 single family permits in April, which is a little bit less than what we normally see. Again, seeing some lag behind, I think, from December. We did get permits for the Hubble Callaway project. So that's some townhomes that were part of that 22, but also the clubhouse and the apartment buildings. So those will be pretty big ones to work through. And then we're getting real close on the NRCS easement stuff. We've got our final documents back this week from a group that was doing some environmental review for us. So we're hoping to get everything submitted to them next week, and then they can send it on up for their final review. So real close on that, and that'll be a good thing to have off my plate.
All right, thanks.
No, nothing, Mayor.
George? Nope. Brian?
I will just let you know, I will not be able to join you at DC,
Oh, okay.
and I will not be present at the next meeting, council meeting.
Okay.
Other than that, nothing.
All right, thank you. Jim?
Not really a legal thing, but speaking back down to the woods and you're talking about the Warren County Park down there. We made statements that there's a bunch of partying going on down there. I'm a frequent walker down there. And I've seen turkeys and deer and eagles and owls and possums and raccoons. I haven't run into any bear cancer party down there. And I would hate to spread that publicly. That's what's going on and discourage people from using it because it's really a cool place. You know, I haven't gone down there and walked. You gotta make sure you don't hit a rainy day because it can get muddy and stuff, but it's really a neat place to walk. And I got other family members that jog down there and it's hardly used at all. And I haven't run into any partiers and I'm usually there right before dusk because I like to take my dog and I do break the rule. I let him off the leash. He's a hunting dog and I let him run the field, but but other than that, I'd hate to have it get that reputation. I've heard other people say that. I have not personally witnessed that. So
Good, they're cleaning up.
but it is a cool place to go and walk if you want to kind of
That's
get an idea of our ground, even though it's not our ground. It's very similar to what the city looks like. City's ground looks like. Yeah.
Only thing I have is community chat's gonna be in here on May the 10th. We meet here at 9 o'clock, go until 10:30, and you can come in and ask pretty much anything you want to ask us. And we will be happy to talk to you and let you know what's what. Okay. All right. Item number 10. Item 10 is a closed session pursuant to Iowa Code Section 2151C to discuss strategy with counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent. Whereas disclosure would be likely to prejudice or disadvantage the position of the governmental body in that litigation. Jim, is this a valid reason to go into closed session?
Yes, it is.
All right, can I get a motion to go in closed session?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Meineke, seconded by Livingston. Kalen, would you please call roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. It is 7:17 and we're gonna take a 5-minute recess.
All right.